and welcome to the, we're calling it the regroup. So this is the post People's Convergence online summit meeting where we get into the action and we start talking about what we're going to do next. People are going to pitch some ideas. There's also some people here who said, I want to be a supporter, hands up. And all of you listening too, you might decide I want to be a supporter, or maybe you have an idea. So this is just the beginning where we're going to start turning ideas into tangible results. And tonight I'm just here to pitch my idea and talk about what I can offer as a role in the future. And our facilitators and co-hosts tonight are Mary Layton. Thank you so much, Mary.
Hello.
And
Great.
Tracy Maynard. Thank you, Tracy.
Hello.
All right. And now I'm just going to hand it over to Mary and Tracy.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. So as Jennifer outlined, the purpose today is to celebrate. It was quite a lot of work and a number of events that came together, so a chance to kind of celebrate that. A chance to connect. I know some people here know each other well, but I think a lot of people, you know, are missing certain connections or would benefit from an opportunity to talk. And finally, to identify our own next actions. Yeah, so that's what we hope to do tonight within our 90 minutes together. And just to give you a sense of who I am, because sometimes it's funny if you don't know who someone is, you can see here a little bit of my background. Yeah, some different campaign work on environmental and political campaigns, and training and facilitation. And right now I'm actually becoming a teacher here in Victoria. But I'm really here tonight because I'm really interested in how groups work, especially how groups take action in the messiness that's part of it, but also all of the heart. Yeah, so that's why I'm here with you tonight. And I have an Instagram account called Trees of Our Lives, so I feel like it's on topic. Screens, and just give Jennifer a chance to lead in kind of summarizing what happened over the last couple of weeks. So Jennifer, I'll hand it over to you and mute myself.
Excellent, thanks, Mary. Yeah, so exciting past few weeks, oh my God. You know, this type of province-wide convergence, this kind of virtual thing is unprecedented. So this is amazing, and thank you all for participating in the ways that you participated. Thanks to all of our guests. We had such fantastic feedback, nothing but positive feedback for the guests. We're here to change the game, and what we're doing is working, clearly, based on all of this positive feedback. People have been saying that they really appreciate knowing what's really going on, hearing this alternative voice, hearing the voices of people who are knowledgeable and are experts in their fields. The goals of the summit, I think, were achieved. People getting the word out there and connecting people. And I just wanted to let you guys know too that I'm going to continue to share the summit videos. Like, people can buy the packages. They can go on forestmarchbc.com and buy those packages for $15. That's always available to you. But to keep the interest happening and to keep it alive, once a week or so, every 2 weeks, I'm going to offer one of the videos for free and promote it on Facebook so that the right people are seeing. And when I say the right people, I mean those of us who are actually going to get involved and do something real and take some steps and give some support. So let's share some of the data. 466 people signed up for the Forest Summit. 16 communities participated in the march. The website, forestmarchbc.com, the month of September had almost 14,000 views, and that's up from 829 views in August. Huge difference. The Facebook group, BC Forestry Reform, some of you guys are members, and if you're on Facebook and you're not a member, please do join. It's called BC Forestry Reform. Had an increase of 28% in membership in September. The Facebook page Forest March BC, the page likes increased by 252% in the month of September, and the post reach increased by 700%, with a total of 10,358 views on our posts in the month of September. And just so you guys know, I'm a little bit further behind than what I wanted to be because I had to come to Prince George to find a new place to live. But the photos, the videos, and the documents from the march, all that stuff that you guys have been sharing, it'll go up on the website by Monday night at the latest so that we can all see and partake and feel that sense of solidarity, seeing other people participate as well. And when that's all up there, I'll send out an email to everybody on this list. I just wanted to say too, the signage and the creativity displayed at the marches was amazing. There were songs and there was plays as well. I'll finish off and then I'll hand it back over to Mary and Tracy. I wanted to say that the feedback that I've been getting, the messages, the emails, the conversations, there is a voracious appetite in British Columbia right now to do something. And people are looking for guidance and direction and structure. And that's what we're here for tonight. It's the beginning of turning our passion and ideas into tangible results. So thank you all for joining us. Back over to Mary and Tracy.
Classic. I was just gonna say, can we have a moment of like, you know, applause or like movement of like recognition, you know? Woo! Yeah. I've heard once that there are like 3 kinds of meetings, like meetings where you plan, meetings where you do, and meetings where you celebrate. And often we mix them together, but it's always that third kind that I don't feel like we actually take enough time to do, is celebrating those kinds of meetings. So part of this meeting is about that and just recognizing, success where it is, and bringing people together, in sharing, in motivating, in inspiring. That's really important work. First breakout groups that we're going to do are going to be one-to-one. And this is kind of fulfilling that purpose of giving people a chance to connect and also process how you felt after the summit, after the Convergence. I think we're all curious to know this for ourselves and for each other, what the roles are that we see ourselves taking now going forward. And I think there's a tendency at this point when we're like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of energy, there's a lot to do, is to try and kind of pitch to the group your strategy. That is to say, like, what you think the group should be doing or other people should be doing, or kind of an undefined, like, what we should be doing, without a lot of clarity about who we is. And so instead, I think often what really motivates us and engages us and makes me feel like, oh yes, I can do that too, is actually just hearing what someone themselves is willing to do. Because if someone makes it really clear what role they're going to take on, I'm like, what is the role that I feel responsible to take on in this moment? So we are going to go into one more breakout group. But we're going to move into the final part of our meeting today. So this final part is around interactions with this group in this moment right now. So based on the role that you see yourself taking, what can you offer or invite to the group right now? And this is not a moment for, telling the group what you think the group should be doing, or telling the group what you think some other people should be doing, or what we as a whole should be doing. But it's really specifically like, what can you offer right now, or what do you want to invite people to right now? So a couple of examples. I want to continue these gatherings and this conversation. I will host the next meeting 2 weeks from now. Post your email address in the chat box if you want to be involved. Or maybe someone else says, I want to create a strategy to engage in the BC election, which of course is only a few weeks away, including communications plans. I'm posting my email in the chat box. Send me a message privately if you want to be a part of that. Also super valid if you just want to listen and see, okay, there's a person doing something that I want to help out with, so I'll follow up with that person. So there's absolutely no need to pitch anything right now. This is really for folks who want, who have like a clear what I can offer right now, or something that they want to invite other people to. And we do have just about 20 minutes for this section. And I know that there are, I think now just over 20 of us. So to be respectful for people's time, I'm going to ask people to keep it to a minute. And again, I think the best ways to kind of let people follow up with you or for you to follow up with them is to use that chat box. So if you have a proposal or a pitch that you would like people to join you for, you can just put your email address in the chat box. And that way people can kind of self-identify and kind of join you for the thing that you would like to do. Yeah. Any clarifying questions before we get into it? Okay. So just to recap, what is your offer or invitation to the group in this moment? Knowing that there are lots of other ways to, of course, stay in contact, including the Facebook group that Jennifer mentioned. And yeah, I'm going to ask you to keep it to about a minute. And so if I do cut you off, it's not personal at all. It's really out of respect for the group. And what I'll probably cut you off with, if it's going over a minute, is just, what would you like to ask the group right now? Or what would you like to offer? And just ask you to kind of get to that moment. All right. And I think Jennifer is going to lead us off on this. Yeah, Jennifer, do you want to take it away?
Okay, thanks, Mary. So I don't so much have an offer at this point. That's going to come later. Other than to say for the next 2 months, I'm going to continue with the Forest March and the Forest Summit website, the Facebook page, the Facebook group, the email messages. So anything that gets developed and created here will be shared that way. So any ideas that get solidly developed from here and the next meeting, we do plan to do a follow-up meeting to this one to move forward even more. So I'll be involved with that. That's what I'll be doing over the next couple of months. And then after that, my role will be dive into this even more full-time and participate the same way I've already been participating, communication hub, spokesperson, catalyst for action. So just over the next little while though, still offering to use the communication tools that have been developed from the summit and the Forest March connections, networking here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Jennifer. All right, I'm just gonna highlight a couple of things in the chat box. So I'm kind of gonna speak your pitch for you for the people who have already so succinctly, done it. I congratulate you and I thank you. All right, so I'm just gonna recap the ones that are in the chat box before I let people unmute themselves. So from Maxine, I see I'm interviewing folks from communities where forestry is going on, focusing on NDP held constituencies. I will write up what I learn and share with others. I'd like to connect with those of you who live in those communities. So it's getting around an election strategy. So if you can talk to me, please contact me, and you see an email address there. I also see someone ready to help with strategy and communications. So if you want to have a conversation about that, it looks like there's an email address there. I believe we need an information central blog or web page where people can present ideas. So if you want to make that happen and you don't see it happening, or if you do see it happening and you want to let Mar know where that is, there's an email address there. If someone would like to focus on strategy and communication with BC Greens to summarize solutions, with Elena, there's Elena Martin, has an email address there. Jane has made it clear she's listening to gather ideas for the GVAT Forestry Committee. David Haley, I'm interested in support from this group to create a conservation tax incentive program and to have carbon declared as a farm crop for ALR lands. So David, if you just want to put your email, so if anyone wants to follow up with you on that, then they'll be able to contact you. Patrick, support election strategy. Oh, thank you, David, for doing that. Need RPF support in ongoing case. I might ask you to unmute and speak to that. Awesome. And Flossie's making it clear. Yeah, so go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, we're currently working with the ombudsperson, and we still would like maybe one of our retired RPFs here maybe give us a little better strategy and look at, it's basically legacy roads and cut block hydrologic assessments. We're actually going to get our own, which may put a little more pressure on them providing some information in that regard. So that's what we're looking for. The strategy was just to have like a standardized form for everybody in the election. Sorry,
can you clarify just that last point? Can you say that again? Sorry, I might be the only one.
The strategy would be if in our community we sometimes moderate the candidates. If we could just have like a standardized 4 points that the forced March is trying to get across and get that out to the candidates to see what their answers are on those.
Okay, that sounds great. So it sounds like, yeah, you are engaging with your local candidates and would like a summary. And perhaps there's someone here who can help with that. So what I'm going to invite you to do, Patrick, if you haven't already, can you put your email address in the chat box so that someone can work with you on that? Sure. Awesome. All right. And maybe just hold the chat box ideas and I'll process them. And keep in mind, once I clear through here, I'm going to invite people to unmute if they'd like to speak more. Anyone interested in the sign idea? I see Lisa's email address. Yeah, so if someone wants to follow up about signage. CL says Trails Society of BC is putting forth position paper about the loss of the Trans-Canada Trail to motor vehicles and industrial forestry. We've lost 67 kilometers. And it looks like there's an email if someone would like to work on that, if you're feeling motivated. And it looks like Sierra Club is also preparing questions for candidates. So if someone wants to connect more with the Sierra Club, Maxine, if you haven't already put your email address, I think it's above though. Great. All right, so now that I've kind of cleared through, I just didn't want those to get lost in the chat box, as can sometimes happen with like the two forms of communication. So if anyone would like to, explain their offer or their invitation by unmuting themselves, just give me a wave and unmute yourself. Yeah, go for it, Maxine.
Well, I would just really appreciate it if any of you are from out in the northern BC or where there's northern Vancouver Island or wherever there's a lot of forest trees being cut, if you could please get in touch with me, give me your email or something so I can talk to you more detail about the situation. And like I said, I'm especially interested in NDP constituencies because it is the NDP, assuming they get reelected, that can make these changes that we want.
Wonderful. So just to make sure folks are clear, you can use Maxine's email, which is posted in there, or maybe just put a note in the chat box and say, Maxine, follow up with me and put your email address just to make sure that Maxine has a chance to catch all of those. Thank you so much. All right, I saw a wave. I'm gonna go to Y. I don't have your first name there, Mayrind.
It's Eve, like Yves Saint Laurent, but I'm not nearly as famous.
Great. I'll go to you, Eve.
Okay, what I wanted to convey to this group, and what I want to get back at as we break, is there some kind of coordinated effort that is coming out of this, and how will it be organized? I've already stated to quite a few of you what I'm prepared to contribute and what I think that where I can be useful, but I sort of get to need a sense of how this will be put together and into some kind of coordinated and focused form.
Thank you so much, Eve. So if I'm understanding your request, you're like, I have skills to offer, but I need to offer them within a structure. But what you're seeing is that structure potentially forming right here and right now. So it really depends on whether someone here wants to offer, for example, the next meeting, and preparing to chair that and potentially have more of a structure conversation about who are we and what are we doing. So we'll see if someone makes that pitch, which will allow folks like you to plug into it. All right, I saw a hand down with Lynn. Lynn, would you still like to speak?
I just finished reading this wonderful document called Restoring Forestry in BC. Jennifer gifted it to me the last time I saw her. And I was wondering, I know that Donaldson is not going to run again. And sometimes they are not running because they find out too much and it doesn't go jive with their ethics. So I was wondering if somebody like Bob Williams, who is an ex-minister, could approach Donaldson, and because his networking will be large, will be great. And I think we have to get to the top. And so with these players, they could have a conversation, because things happen in our jobs and in our lives, you know, that you're not forthcoming about, but maybe with somebody of a like mind or somebody that's encouraging you, because we need to know, you know, what they're up to, where they're heading, how we can head things off. There's a lot of complicating factors, you know, like NAFTA and jobs and, you know, all these kind of things. So I really like what Bob Williams has written. I revere Stan Travers, and those are our high-level people. So I'm just wondering if there can be some connections like at the top, and we can, you know, join that momentum.
So Lynn, I might ask you to summarize, like, is it a request for information, or would you like someone to follow up with you on that?
Well, first of all, I think I'd like to ask if the group thinks that's valuable, because I think Eves is right. If we don't get focused, time is of the essence. We don't want to whir our wheels, you know, so we need to build a power base.
Great.
So that's what I'm thinking.
I'm sorry to kind of curtail it, but I'm not going to open it up for discussion. But what I will for sure do is, if you see something here that resonates with you and you want to have a conversation with Lynn about this, about the kind of political potential, reaching out to, I don't know, yeah, people such as Donaldson. What I'm going to ask you to do is, Lynn, can you put your email in the chat box?
Yes, I will.
Perfect. And I'm going to ask folks, yeah, if maybe you're making notes from this meeting, if you're like, oh, I want to follow up on that, or I have an idea, this is the person to go to. Thank you. All right, show me a wave if you'd like to unmute. David, go for it.
Yeah, thanks. I guess my question is probably directed to Jennifer, but I'm wondering if amongst the speakers you had, or if you know anybody else that could assist in developing different evaluation tools for the non-timber values, you know, environmental services, environmental goods. You know, I've mentioned too this land trust, or the conservation tax incentive, and carbon as agriculture product. I mean, those to me have an underlying economic rationale, but it's hard to actually find some hard numbers around them. So I'm wondering if there's somebody that could help put some actual evaluation criteria around some of these other values that we're interested in.
All right.
To help in decision making.
I saw some nonverbal affirmations, some people with their hands and heads nodding that might definitely want to work with you on that, David. If you're willing to put your email in the chat box, just with like a quick summary of follow up with me about this.
There's a fellow named David Broadland who has just that idea, and he couldn't make it, so I said I would share his pitch, and that goes to that. And I think this is something that a lot of people will be interested in. So Mary, if it's okay, I'm gonna
go for it.
Read his pitch here real quick. Let me just get the email lined up. Okay, so here's how his idea works. Let's say, the example he gave, let's say Michelle Connolly and Conservation North draw lines on a map of the Anzac River Valley, and they identify and map all the different non-timber values that exist in that area. Those values would include protecting endangered species and ecosystems, including old growth and mature forest, potential carbon sequestration capacity, potential for low impact recreational development, and protection of watersheds. Oh, I lost it here. Get it back here. There are other values to include as well, including protecting First Nations rights and title. At the same time as Michelle and Conservation North draw those lines, they're provided with hard numbers on the net value to the public of the timber harvesting that would occur in the area they want to protect. Their organization is provided with hard numbers on the carbon emissions that harvest would create. They're provided with hard numbers on the potential for carbon sequestration over a period of time. They're provided with an estimate of the value of tourism that protecting such an area would add to their local community. They're provided with hard numbers for the value of protecting water quality and flow. Each of those values for that specific area is then given a monetary value, or if it can't be assessed after all, what is the value of preventing mountain caribou from going extinct? Then a new way of comparing non-economic values with economic values is created. But for most of the values listed above, a hard monetary value can be estimated. The monetary value of harvesting the forest that Michelle et al. Are trying to save is also estimated using the ministry's harvest billing system for a nearby area of similar forest, and that volume share of the ministry's costs over a period of 60 years. All the non-timber values over that 60-year period are then compared to the net values of harvesting the timber in that area that Michelle and Conservation North have drawn lines around. So he's got a system that he's creating a process for doing all the above work at the local level and making the results public. The process will take place within a website called Evergreen Alliance. And Evergreen Alliance will offer local organizations across the province a framework to draw lines on the map. So David has given me permission to share all that and more. So he's got this plan worked out. So I'm going to share it with everybody. I just wanted to read it very quickly so you kind of have a summary of what he's proposing, or he's actually started. This is happening already.
That's great. It sounds like a very beautiful and meaningful offer to the group. And sounds like for folks that lights up, there's also room to contribute and support. There's a couple in the chat box, and I won't try to follow it all, but just to make sure that you are, following both. All right, I saw a wave from Michelle. Go for it.
This isn't my idea. It came from Yves Meyran, but I'm really interested in knowing what all the candidates coming up in the next election will do about logging old growth across BC. And so I think something that perhaps needs to happen in fairly short order is to figure out ways to request this information from all the candidates and then put it in a public spot so that people can see it and make their voting decisions based on that information. So I'm curious if others think this is a good idea, and if so, perhaps we can meet to talk about how to do this. I don't know if I represented that idea properly, Eve. Maybe he can articulate it better.
Absolutely, no, that was fine. I think there's a very, very short window to put each and every candidate that's officially running in the 87 constituencies. You know, if we can't do it for 87, let's do it for as many as we can, you know, to ask them where they stand personally and where their party stands on that issue.
Wonderful. Thank you both for kind of taking on some leadership around the election next step. And can you just clarify what's the best way to move forward? Would one of your emails be better? How can people move forward with you on that?
I can put my email in the chat box right now.
Awesome. All right. So if you would like to work on election and candidate strategy, see Michelle's email. Eve.
Just for my information, I'm trying to sense whether we'll all break up in subgroups or have some kind of common thread. I suppose that only some people have volunteered their email. I sort of feel like knowing, you know, who is prepared to share, not necessarily on their particular focus, but more generally out of this discussion. So I would suppose that if you volunteer your email, you volunteer to get, you know, communications and information a little bit more broadly than the subgroups. I'm just a little concerned that we'll end up with a whole bunch of subgroups that are really have isolated actions.
So what I'm hearing is kind of like an interest in at least moving all of this group forward together, so that even if there are working groups, for example, working on the BC election, that there's still more holistic communication happening. And this is where it relies on someone who's willing to take that role. Would anyone, like to pitch to chair the next such meeting like this? Or maybe it's different than this, but yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I can host the next meeting. I can do one more meeting after this.
All right. And Jennifer, is it reasonable to say, like, because you already have folks' email addresses, you'll be able to invite everyone and people can opt into that? Okay.
Yeah, I can invite everyone who's here tonight as well as others on the list who are interested. We need to start forming things that are more tangible and more solid as we move forward.
Yeah, the goal of this was to kind of give people a chance to move into action. So if there's someone that you want to work with on something, you can start to do that, and it's not like there's gatekeepers. On the other hand, if you would like to also be part of ongoing meetings to see where you plug in, it sounds like that's, thanks to Jennifer, also going to continue to be available. All right, I think we've got time for one more hand. Jane, did I see you wave?
I just wanted to say that I'm pretty sure that GVAT will be doing the ask questions of candidates thing, so that GVAT could work on covering some of the ridings within Greater Victoria. But I have to have a meeting of my committee before I can say that for sure. But that's certainly what I was intending to propose to them tomorrow anyway.
Great. And it sounds like, yeah, you've got a couple of partners already kind of on that working group. Yeah. All right. Some burning last waves. I see a couple. I see Lanny and I see Tracy. Lanny, go for it.
Take Lanny first, yeah.
Well, actually, it's Ralph, but
Oh,
the two
hi,
of us
Ralph.
are here in front of this. Okay. There's a lot of focus on the election, and you know, I've been fighting this since I was 18. I'm 68, so it's a long time, and not a lot has changed, and governments come and go, and the NDP has shown that it's not particularly interested in saving old growth. Everything they've thrown out forward is is really token. This last effort to protect a few thousand hectares and a few, maybe 1,500 individual trees it's tokenism. I mean, the discussion is really over for places like Vancouver Island, where really there's just a few percent left, and in much of the province, what little old growth there is, you know, isn't very commercially viable any longer. So, you know, we can have this discussion and we can put it to the candidates, but really what we need to do is begin to confront forest policy as it has been for 50 years and as it will probably continue to be for a while, because the government, Flinrod in particular, does not represent you and me. If you go talk to them, they represent industry. They're not really interested in hearing from you or me. There's a culture in Flinrod that's all about industry, because everybody that goes into the Forest Lands and Natural Resource District office, whether it's in Nelson, Campbell River, Vancouver, Nanaimo, you name it, they're all contractors and loggers, and that's the people that those guys
Ralph,
socialize with. That's who they talk with.
I'm very sorry to cut you off, but I'd like to know what would you like to offer or invite people to do right now?
Well, we need to, my proposal is to create a body, an organization, a think tank along the lines of the Center for Policy Alternatives or the Pembina Institute, or, you know, on a kind of more in a darker vein, the Fraser Institute, but a think tank that counters prevailing government and industry forest policy, that offers alternatives. And it's a think tank that should be made up of really hardcore professional and scientific people, people with credentials like Herb Hammond, people who are registered professional foresters, hydrologists, so that we can take on these ridiculous policies that the NDP and the Liberals and other governments have thrown forward that they claim is some kind of panacea, and it's all just a load of crap.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again, but what would you like people to do? What can people do now? Do they follow up with you? Would you like to attend the next meeting and make this part of where the coalition goes? What would you like to do now?
Well, we have been talking with Jennifer about this, and we put this proposal through to the BC Forest Watch listserv, and it's gotten a bit of support, and we're willing to throw in $5,000 to start. You know, we need to hire a point person and a virtual office, and we just need to create a body that starts to take on forest policy through traditional media, internet, print, radio, TV, so that there's a body out there that's credible, that's professional, that has credentials, that can counter this stuff coming from government and industry. That would be the goal.
Great. I'm seeing a lot of head nods and a lot of affirmation, so I think people are into it. Would you like to maybe speak more to this at the next meeting, or would you like people to follow up with you separately? What's your preference?
Sorry, what?
Wait for a meeting.
I think we'll wait for a meeting. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. I think you riled people up. And Herb, I really apologize. I had the chat box over you. Would you like to speak?
Yes, I would. I think I've heard lots of really interesting ideas here tonight. And I don't know if many of you have ever heard the name Donella Meadows. She is a member, no longer with us, but with the Club of Rome, who wrote the seminal report in 1972 about limits to growth. She and many wise Indigenous people and wise people in general would remind us, listening to this conversation, that we have lots of good ideas, but we don't have a vision. And I think that if we're going to have a coalition that's effective, if all the good ideas that I heard here tonight are going to work, they have to be framed under a vision. That will provide us with unity and common purpose, and it will avoid us dividing and conquering each other. And the other thing I would say is that vision needs to start with heart-based thinking. These problems will not be solved from our brains. They'll be solved from our hearts, leading our brains to the right place. And I would be glad to work with others to draft some kind of a vision that people could take apart and put back together again and develop something that we could all come together around. And that vision then becomes something that you lead with, whether you're talking about elections and trying to convince candidates to vote in one place, whether you're trying to deal with loggers in the forest. I've done that, and it has an amazing effect. So I think without that, we run the risk of going in a lot of different directions and not achieving what I think we would like to achieve.
Thank you so much, Herb. What I hear is a beautiful offering to begin crafting that vision. And it sounds like there are already people in the chat box affirming it. Herb, if you're willing to perhaps share your best contact information for people who would like to help you craft that vision. And it sounds like this is something that will also come up in the next meeting, potentially. Yeah. And then I think the last one, Tracy, you had your hand waved, and then I'm gonna actually close us up, but go for it.
I was fortunate to be in the meeting with Ralph and Herb. So I was completely inspired, and it was really interesting because I watched, as I heard them talking, I watched my offering change a bit of what I had originally proposed. So my experience is in community organizing, and what I'm personally interested in is building a network of people here locally who care about Mount Elphinstone, who are connected to a network of those people across the province. And so originally I was going to just propose sort of a classic coalition approach, but I'm really interested in putting some effort behind Ralph and Herb, and I just want to offer my experience and support to them as we lead with heart, but also get a really bold communications message out there. And so I'm willing to offer my community organizing experience to that effort. And I just want to just say thank you to all of you so much for being here. It's so grounding and wonderful to know that there are people across the province just like me, sitting in their bedrooms, really caring about something and willing to do something personally. So thank you so much.
Wonderful. Last word from Jennifer.
My last word, I just wanted to, before you close out, Mary, I just wanted to say that I have copied all of the notes, all of the chat box notes, and I will share them with everybody here on this call, so that you, in case you lost something, and nothing gets lost that way. And I wanted to ask if there's anybody here who'd be willing to go back, watch through the recording, and take notes of the specific offers and send me those notes. And then I can take the chat box stuff and I can take those notes, just not notes of everything that everybody said, but the specific offers. If there's somebody who's got time to do that, because I don't have time. Wait, Lena? Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay, you're the first person I'm going to send this recording to, and I'll be in touch with you. Thank you so much.
All right. I love that really final specific, that's like the most specific request, and request met. So thank you both. All right. Thank you to Jennifer, to Taryn, to Tracy for helping me put this facilitation plan together, and for all of your participation as we figure out how to do this thing together. I can see some clear next steps and some next steps that are going to take shape thanks to you. And that's what it takes. All right, I'm going to bid you all a good night.
Thank you.
Farewell, farewell.
Thank you.
Nice to meet everybody. Thank you so much.
Thanks everyone, and thanks Mary for facilitating.
Thanks,
and Jennifer, and all of you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Again, emails will come out to you guys, info and meeting notes.
Okay.
And follow up.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Mary.